So it's 4 years today that Anthony Joshua became the IBF heavyweight champion, beating Mr. I Walk the Earth like a god, Charles Martin, in a couple of rounds. Charles Martin must be one of the most undeserving heavyweight champs that I can remember. Like, one of the most undeserving. Remember, he fought for a vacant belt. That was Tyson Fury's belt that got stripped. And he fought, was it Glaskov? I think that was his name, Glaskov. And Glaskov injured his knee. What round was it? Glaskov was winning the fight and he injured his knee. And therefore, Charles Martin became IBF heavyweight champion. So not only was it a vacant belt, you then won it because the guy injured his knee. So he just didn't really win it, right? And then you lost it in your first defense, getting smashed in a couple of rounds by a novice? I think it's fair to say AJ was a novice back then, right? I mean, I think his fight prior to that was against Dillian White, and that was for the British and Commonwealth strap. So kind of a novice. So yeah, I think Charles Martin, don't want to be too harsh here, but I think he's one of the worst heavyweight champions in the last 20 years. I can't think of, I mean, is he worse than Bermane Stiverne? I think he is. And the funny thing about Charles Martin is that I actually think he's a better fighter now than he was then, right? I think that win against Gerald Washington was solid. Even his performance against Kaunaki, solid. So I think he's actually a better fighter now. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in the next sort of 18 months, 2 years. I mean, he could be in the mix again, sort of top 15 rated. He could be in the mix again. He can't be that far off fighting for something. I think he could be wrong here, but I do think he's like number 3 or 4 in the IBF rankings. Charles Martin. Anyway, this isn't about Charles Martin. This is about Anthony Joshua. So 4 years on since AJ beat Charles Martin, how would you score that 4 years? Like, is it good, bad, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, solid, shaky? Like, how would you define those 4 years? I think there are a few ways to look at it. I feel like Eddie Hearn would look at it completely different to how AJ would look at it, to how we as fans would look at it. If you're Eddie Hearn, it's been a phenomenally good 4 years, right? I mean, Eddie Hearn's a money man. Let's be honest, he's a promoter. From a promoter standpoint, I mean, could it have been a better 4 years? Yes, it could have been, right? And it could have been because of Wilder and Fury fights. But aside from that, I mean, it's tick, tick, boom. You look at the early defenses, Molina, Brazil, Takam, Parker getting another belt. Obviously, that lift-off fight against Klitschko. So in terms of the fight, it's been good trajectory. In terms of growth, it's been an awesome trajectory, right? I mean, let's be honest, he's fighting in arenas. He's gone from fighting in arenas to fighting in stadiums. By the way, that's not normal, people, right? Arenas is more... You've done well as a boxer. If you can sell out an arena, so you've got a fan base that's willing to pay X amount to sell out an arena, you have done awesome. For you to then move on to stadiums, and not just a one-fight stadium, right? You get a lot of fighters that maybe touch a stadium once. I'm talking about to the point where you can't imagine AJ fighting in an arena again, especially not over here. In other countries, yes. But over here, you can only imagine him fighting in stadiums. So that trajectory has been awesome, right? In terms of pay-per-view numbers, awesome. In terms of money, finances, sponsors, everything awesome. So Eddie Hearn is going to be happy, even with the Ruiz loss, the way in which he came back and obviously made more money in Saudi Arabia. So from an Eddie Hearn perspective, it's been an awesome 4 years. It really has. Yes, he wouldn't have wanted that blip with Ruiz, but when he looks at the financials, tick. Massive green tick. For AJ, it's been a good 4 years. I'm trying to think of it from his boxing performances and how he would judge himself in those performances. Brazil, good fight. That was an unbeaten Brazil, so it's slightly different compared to the Brazil Wilder fought. I think an unbeaten fighter never thinks they're going to lose to an extent. I remember Brazil coming over here very confident, very brash. AJ put a beating on him, but Brazil stood up to that beating. Good performance. Molina, easy, wiped out, good performance. And then came Klitschko, right? Klitschko would have made him feel like he's there. That win against Klitschko would have made him feel like, you know what? Yes, I've got the IBF belt, but those defenses were kind of routine defenses. This is now sort of the A level, right? And I know people talk about Klitschko being old and coming off a loss and the long layoff. Klitschko is still A level, or was still A level. People don't be fooled by that. He was. So he'll look at that as saying, I now belong, and he'll look at the fight itself and saying, I showed heart, I showed determination, I got up, I got my second win. So in terms of sort of waking up after that performance, you can't be more than happier. You can't be. So what was it, 90,000 at Wembley? You can't be happier. The fights after, he wouldn't have been happy against Parker, right? That's not the performance he wouldn't have wanted. He would have wanted. He wouldn't have been happy against Takam. Definitely not Takam. Again, Takam came in late notice, and that fight shouldn't have even been stopped. So Takam, I think, would have taken him the distance. He got hurt in the Povetkin fight. We have to be honest. Got hurt in the Povetkin fight, and then obviously lost to Ruiz. Came back, obviously changed up styles and beat Ruiz, but there's a few shaky performances in there. So I think if AJ was to kind of score those performances, there's not a performance, I think, after the Klitschko one that he would have given himself an 8, 9 out of 10. Maybe the second Ruiz one, but obviously the first Ruiz one's a 0, let's be real. Takam, a 5, right? It wasn't a great performance. Parker, boring, 5. So I think AJ would look at the 4 years and be happy and content that he's overcome hurdles and obstacles, but also knowing that he needs to improve. And he also will know that he desperately needs the Wilder or Fury fight. There's no two ways about it, right? He desperately needs one of those guys. I think he'll know that. I think AJ now, at this age, being a world champion twice, so many defenses prior to the Ruiz fight, he will know now, and a lot of money in the bank, right? So he's secure. It's now about legacy. And in order to get that legacy, win or lose those fights, by the way, but in order to be in those fights, he needs those fights, right? He needs a Wilder or a Fury to secure legacy, to talk about legacy. He needs those fights. Kubrat Pulev doesn't do it. No, does Usyk do it? I don't think Usyk does it as well. It's got to be a Wilder or Fury. Can he get those fights? I don't know. From a fan's perspective, so I'm an AJ fan. As an AJ fan, those 4 years, if I was to score it out of 10, I'd probably, let me think. Seven, 8. I'm trying to sort of think of everything. So I'm trying to not just think of his performances in the ring. I'm trying to think of his growth as a boxer. I think there are improvements there, but I think his growth as a boxer, his growth in terms of his fan base and how big he's become. I mean, again, you can't take that for granted, especially in this sport, because not many boxers have that type of support. So you've got to kind of add to that as well. His performances against, wins. So less performance, but wins against good B-level fighters. Again, the one A- in there for me is Klitschko. It was a win. And how he's overcome adversity against Ruiz. You can't underestimate the pressure going into that fight. You can't underestimate it, right? You got beat by someone no one expected you to get beat by, and then you rematch them straight away, and you change up your style to beat them, knowing that if you were to lose to that person again, I don't know where. I mean, look, he can come back, right? Of course he can come back, but it's a long way back mentally. It's a long way back if the same person beats you up again. So you have to give him credit for that, and I will. So that's why I say it's a 7, 8 out of 10. Obviously, the reason it's not a 10 is A, because of the performances in some of those fights. I wasn't impressed in the Parker fight. I wasn't impressed with the start in the Povetkin fight. Very impressed in the way in which he ended the Povetkin fight. But we're just being picky. I wasn't impressed in the Takam fight, and obviously lost to Ruiz. But I guess the biggest thing, obviously, is Wilder Fury. AJ has to have those fights in the next 18 months. Has to. Right? You can't be a heavyweight champion in this era and not fight those two. You can't. Right? You can't be a heavyweight champion in this era and not fight those two. And it makes it worse that those two are gonna, by the time AJ rolls around having fought them, fingers crossed, would have fought 3 times. I mean, it's not like they had a one-off and then they could never make it happen again. It looks like they're making it happen 3 times. So AJ has to secure those fights. And then obviously it goes up, the performance goes up to like an 8, 9, maybe even a 10. Again, a lot of people seem to give AJ quite a bit of hate and stick. I don't know why. I just look at someone that's great for the sport. I look at someone that has got a lot more eyes on the sport, and someone that's doing well, right? Someone that's doing well. Someone that's changed his life around and is doing well. And he's doing very, very well. He's overcome adversity. He's selling out stadiums. He is a legit world champion. We're not talking a regular champion or an international champion. We're talking a legit world champion. And he's ticking off very decent B-level fighters. That's the issue. He needs a couple of big A-level fighters in there. Hasn't had one big one yet. Again, the Klitschko one was an A- for me. I'm talking the A's. The 2 A's are Wilder and Fury. Will he get them? I can only hope so. Peace. Guys, sorry, it's me again. I'm back. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, please like and share the videos. It really does help the channel a lot. And if you want to support the channel, I do have a Patreon account. The link is in the description. All right, I'm done. Peace.